Hi, my name is Jacob Betts, and I don't watch a whole lot of anime.
Hi, my name is Kane.
My name is Kenneth, and I watch a lot of anime.
And I like to party.
And today, we're gonna party with Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. This is gonna be episodes 5 through 8. Let's get to it, shall we?
I'm down.
Yeah. You guys have seen this before. Anything stand out to you about these 4 episodes on a rewatch?
Yeah, let's talk about right at the beginning of episode 5.
Yeah?
That fucking nightmare that Ed has.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
There's episode 5, Reign of Sorrows.
Wait, that's what I wrote down is if you can do that, why couldn't you make mommy better? Right off the bat. Like, God
It's
damn.
like, hey man, remember that last episode that we showed you that was pretty rough with the tuck fucker? Literally, right, just slammed.
And the way it also starts off as like a positive, like happy dream.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, remember your mom? She's gone.
Because it starts with him talking to Nina, right? If I remember correctly.
In the dream.
In the dream, yeah.
It starts with him talking to his mom.
His mom.
And then his
And
mom
then it flashes.
turns into the monster that they resurrected.
Oh, and then that
he
turns
turns
into
around and Nina's
yeah.
there.
Yes,
And
he has
she
a whole
turns into the monster that she turns into.
he has a whole nightmare of failures.
Yeah. This episode's probably one of my favorite episodes in the early parts of this anime. In particular, because it really brings you down to earth with the character and lets you know, hey, these are kids.
Mm-hmm.
These
Well,
are
'cause
kids dealing with death on a scale that they've never dealt with before for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, before that, you know when you're younger, I mean, I'm still young and feel this way, but you know when you're younger and you feel like you can tackle anything,
Yeah.
and you don't really come down to earth until you've been through some sort of like crazy trauma for the first time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that like realization that like, oh, I am mortal.
Yeah, and in this one, they really do have to confront their own mortality because they get their asses handed to them by Scar.
Scar.
Yeah, they get cornered in an alley basically, and attacked by him because they're state alchemists, and he's killing all the state alchemists.
And for the first time, they're not risking their lives on their own terms.
Mm-hmm.
They are being pursued by somebody who's actively trying to kill them.
Yeah.
It's the first time these children are dealing with somebody trying to kill them that isn't their something they haven't jumped into on their own terms.
And they don't even know.
Yeah.
And I also want to say that they have a nice little sit down. I think it's before they're attacked, where Alphonse is talking about what he can't do because he doesn't have a body.
Right.
And I love this little imagery of them being in the rain and the rain falling on him and acting like tears.
Yeah.
Which is so beautiful because he can't actually cry, so nature is sort of crying for him.
Absolutely.
I love that image.
So why does Scar just like he's like from the 90s from like a indie band? Like with the jacket and like the sweatpants and that's just and the clout goggles.
I have one note on Scar. Well, I have a couple, but my first note on Scar is Mustang just up and calls him Scar when he first approaches him.
Yeah,
and
I had the note right there too. I was like, is that like offensive? Like, would you otherwise just like if I was like, hey, glasses, because I saw you wearing glasses.
Yeah, like do they ever go
mustache.
over how he gets that name?
well,
Like, is it like something that he accepts, or is it just?
Yeah, well, because they have a scene where they say we don't know his name, but we've been calling him Scar because he has scars. But they never.
Like
He doesn't know that. Yeah.
So you just walk up and say Scar, and he's like, who y'all talking to? Wait.
Oh, it's
really?
the scars.
Oh,
that's
wow.
why. Real classy,
Also-
guys. Real classy.
Also,
Scar doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't care.
They don't know
Even if that would be weird for him,
he's like, I'm killing all of you.
yeah, he's like, whatever.
Also, they don't know he's Ishvalin until he takes his glasses off.
Yeah,
Come on,
that to me is like
the dude's brown and got white hair.
they really needed to pin that for us in this episode, just in case we weren't fucking following along that he's not from Amestris.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
The very first time I watched the show, I was like, hey, he's black.
Right.
I was like, hey, there's a black guy in the show. All right, I'm on his side. Oh, he's killing people? I'm still on his side. I have to ride with him. Still on his side. But yeah, he takes the glasses off. He's like, oh, he's Ishvalin.
Yeah, but
Yeah, like all the other brown skinned, white haired people.
He literally is like dark skin, white hair, and red eyes.
That's like he already had two.
Wait a minute, though. Wait a minute. From my perspective, as somebody who hasn't seen this before, he takes off the glasses and they say, "Oh, he's Ishvalan," and then they explain what Ishvalan is. I don't know what the hell Ishvalan means prior to that.
It is a device to tell you what Ishvalan is, but from them,
it's the like, way they use the device that we're commenting on.
When you think of it as them saying it, it's like they should have known the second they saw him.
They should have just been like, "Oh, he's Ishvalan." They're standing at him and staring and having a conversation with him for like at least 5 minutes before they're like...
You just had a major conflict against these people. You know what they look like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I guess it's just...
It is a device to tell you.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I'm watching it, I didn't think that was weird at all because I didn't fucking know what Ishvalan was. Okay. And I feel like narratively, that makes perfect sense that they wouldn't comment on it because I have no reason to question it, so why would I assume they do?
Yeah, right. I guess it's a second watch thing that you're like...
Yeah, you're like, that just seems a little, like, not normal human thing to do in the moment. Narratively, absolutely, you're right. I mean, because now we get to talk about... It opens up a lot of stuff that we can talk about, right?
About what the Ishvalan basically stand in for.
Also, when it starts raining, you tell Mustang can't use a lighter?
Mustang doesn't think...
Like he can't use like something else to make a spark besides snapping his fingers.
Right.
Well,
there's nothing else he could do.
It's possible that he can't do it unless if his gloves are wet. I'd take that.
No, but I get that he can't do it because his gloves are wet. But there's no he can't.
Oh no, he would be able to do it with a lighter. I don't think.
That's what I'm saying. He can't
I don't think. Do
have something that makes fire?
I don't know because I feel like they haven't explained what alchemy is.
Wait. They won't.
So I just take them at their word for everything.
It's just magic
because it's just magic.
It's just magic.
Yeah,
but it's like, just magic. But they use little symbols that could mean something we don't know. We're not.
But we're also talking about a world where, aside from alchemy, they made perfect metal prosthetic limbs that are perfect.
Yeah, you're right.
They are perfect down to the fingers moving.
I mean, and they go into this in one of the episodes where they literally connect nerve to nerve. Like,
and it's made by a 14-year-old.
Wait, I'm confused. How does this tie into Mustang not being able to use?
And we're just wondering why he doesn't have a lighter.
There's no contraption he could use to get a spark. Besides snapping his fingers.
Honestly, I'm just
connected to the circle. I don't know.
Yeah, honestly, I'm just going to assume he can't. I don't know why, but narratively they give no reason for me to question that, so I'm just going to take him at their word.
This sulfur would have to be connected from his fingertips, maybe? Yeah. I
don't know what the rules are, and I'm just going to take him at their word for what it is. He can't work in the ring.
It makes him so easily useless.
Well, I think that's the joke, though.
It's a joke.
That's the joke, though. Yeah.
But, how could you be a powerful military, figurehead, and you go out into the battlefield?
You're gonna make that mistake every time.
And somebody has a squirt gun, and you're like, "Oh shit! All right, let's talk about this."
You're right.
Well, a squirt gun wouldn't take him down though, because he has to actually soak his gloves.
Yeah, but if a squirt,
the fact that he's not aware of the rain every time it's fucking raining,
that is weird.
How is he a fucking military leader?
He
can't even
If I have a bucket of water, I can beat Mustang.
Right. In this, I'll give it to him in this sense because he's very heated in the moment.
Yeah.
And whether that's from PTSD or whatever, or if it's just because he's taking care of these these children who this man is attacking. I think the biggest impact for me in this episode is that this 15-year-old and this 12-year-old boy are literally about to be fucking murdered.
Yeah.
Oh, and also something else I wrote down about when he saves them is how did they all sneak up on him like that?
I don't know. All of these are just things that I immediately go, this is just the narrative, and I take the word for all
cars,
it's all weird enough.
There's no car screeches of the cars coming up. You don't hear the song. There's just all of a sudden they're all there like, hey, freeze!
Yo.
And none of the three of them noticed.
Hey, I don't know, but that's just what's more narratively interesting is that they have him now. It creates a flip.
It's just things that I noticed when you're watching it again and you're more in depth. You're like, it just popped up out of nowhere.
You make a valid point because they are very specific about certain things. And then other things,
they're just like, hey,
they're like, yeah, with like
story.
alchemy, they're just like, whatever. But in terms of like the actual plot points, they're very like, we're gonna drop this here for later. We're gonna drop this here for later. So it does.
But the car is just like,
in that kind of storytelling, it does kind of like, you're like, wait,
how do you just run
how
long were you standing there?
Right.
I think there's something interesting that when Scar first attacks him, he says that destruction and creation are two sides of the same coin, or maybe that's something Alphonse says.
No, that's what Armstrong says.
That's what Armstrong says.
He says when there's something you guys create, alchemists create. When there are creators, there are destroyers. He's referring to himself as the destroyer, and the alchemists as fake gods or creators, right?
Yeah. Thank you, because I didn't write down who said that. Well, I remember writing down that it was said because I like that.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because it shows a lot about Armstrong's character, because this is the first time we really get his character as like we get his thoughts, right, as his actual opinions on things. In these next couple of episodes, as you know, because he's a major in the military. Armstrong is. You and I think similarly, Scar. He literally says that. He's like, he recognizes how Scar is going about his alchemy, which everybody else, I guess, just doesn't care.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, he's killing people.
Yeah, because they just see him as a bad guy, and Armstrong looks into it.
Armstrong's the first one who's like, hey, he's stopping before we recreate. He's just destroying. He's just causing chemical, like, basically reactions. And Ed, obviously, when he hears Armstrong says that, explains it for us. But Armstrong says that is because he's like, you think similarly.
Yeah. Well,
two
and
sides
also
of the same coin.
And also Armstrong, as it shows here and as it shows throughout the next couple of episodes as well, Armstrong has a very good sense of empathy. He's really invested in other people's brains and other people's feelings. Throughout the next couple episodes, he starts crying about hearing their story.
He's a good person.
Yeah,
Armstrong is
like
a
I wrote down him
person.
Him crying outside the door.
I wrote that down too. Can we talk about that fight scene? That fight scene's really awesome.
Oh yeah, it is.
That's one of my favorite fight scenes. We don't get to see these fight scenes very often in this show. I feel like this is the first couple of episodes where we saw major fight scenes.
Yeah.
And this is kind of the one that kicks it off, where we actually get to see. Well, okay, yeah, Scar's is murderer in the shadows, but when it comes to actual alchemists fighting, they actually put up a fight. They put up a punch. That isn't just Ed jumping around and creating shit. It's some of these other alchemists who are adults have been through some stuff. And we just see Armstrong going for it. He's like, I'm not going to give you time to think in this battle. Right?
Yeah. Assumedly he's been to war, hasn't he, Armstrong?
Armstrong was in the Ishvalan War as well, I think.
So he has seen a lot of very clear battle.
Yeah, because he mentions Marco in the next episode, right?
Yes, Marco is in the next episode.
Right. What I wanted to talk about with Scar specifically was actually based around that comment. Armstrong's character defines the sort of gray area when he says two sides of the same coin, right? We're the same coin. But from Scar's perspective, he thinks in very black and white terms, and whether that's just to justify his own goal or whatever is how they're viewing him as a bad guy, right?
Yeah.
He views himself as a good guy. Do we know that yet? I'm asking the question here in this episode. It seems like his philosophy is very live or die, black and white. This is right, this is wrong.
Yeah, well, it's kind of hard for me not to sympathize with Scar.
When they explain it, you're just yeah.
Well, yeah. The minute that you're like, oh, they exterminated his people, and effectively the state alchemists are Nazis, and I'm all for taking down Nazis.
Right.
Which when they explain the whole thing, Ed and Al are just there's no reaction for them. Them basically admitting to genocide.
It's the way Mustang specifically. Mustang doesn't ever say the word genocide. It's the way Mustang talks about the story of Ishval, which as an audience we're like, all right, this, that's fucking genocide.
But he explains a war between alchemists, which Ed knows what they can do, and just people.
That's a really good point.
So you should have thought that seems like
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but you're right.
Like a war.
Yeah, no.
Because that's not a war. It's a war between people who have magical powers and just people.
Yeah.
I'm not remembering like later in the show, like when you meet Ishvalans. I don't remember if they call it something different, but like in Amestrius they call it the war, the Ishvalan war.
Mm-hmm.
It's not
really
referred to a war. Yeah. It's not a war. It's not a war.
Yeah.
Mustang says the higher ups, and then it shows the picture of your Bradley, right, King Bradley, and then it literally he's just like the higher ups ordered us to take them all out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then Ed just hears that and just.
Well, again, Ed doesn't. He's a 15-year-old boy, right? He doesn't have his head wrapped around life and
we've
death
shown
the
him,
way.
But you've already shown him to be very smart.
But he's almost too smart, right? He's almost too smart, I'd imagine. Mm-hmm. His head doesn't wrap around things the way I feel like other characters necessarily do. I'm just thinking from the perspective of that character just dealing with this man who's trying to kill them.
Yeah.
Like, cold-blooded. That's what their brain.
Well, I don't think it's like as Ed doing something wrong. I think it's just like an oversight.
Yeah, because he doesn't see it as anything other than facts, right?
It just cuts away.
I don't know if it's an oversight or if it's intentional because of just like where they are and who they are.
Mm-hmm. Well,
they
that
just
makes
don't
sense.
think about it.
That makes sense to me because they're kids who are who work for the team that basically won.
Yeah.
And they, from their perspective, right now they just see this as facts. They don't see this with empathy. They don't look at this as
they're not thrown into
people.
it yet.
Yeah, they don't have they haven't bothered to look at the Ishvalan as people.
And exactly, and the very first instance that they are thrown into it, there's an Ishvalan man trying to murder them.
Yeah,
that is their only perspective of being thrown into this conflict whatsoever. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's an oversight. I think it's on purpose that he doesn't acknowledge it the way that you would as a rational human being would empathize and connect. I think it's done on purpose that he doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean that's why this plot is good. Right? That's the whole point. The only one who does, right, and we established this is Armstrong.
Yeah.
He's the only one in the military who really seems to
feel remorse about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, or has at least
is like
bothered to look at it.
Yeah, that was fucked up.
In that light, right?
Yeah. Which I think is a really good segue to episode 6, which is Road of Hope, where they end up finding Dr. Marco when they're at a stop, because they're going back home to get fixed up, and when they're on the way, Dr. Armstrong sees Dr. Marco, who he recognizes as an old state alchemist who has deserted.
Right.
And they go and track him down and ask him what he's been up to for the past few years. And they find out that he has an imperfect philosopher's stone, or an incomplete philosopher's stone, and has been using it to heal the local townspeople and help them solve their problems. Because a philosopher's stone basically overrides all the rules of alchemy.
We can just do magic now because we can do magic now.
And now effectively it is literally magic. Like alchemy is magic pretending to be science. The philosopher's stone turns alchemy into straight magic.
Yeah.
I have written down, I like that Armstrong is sort of an amalgam of whatever he needs to be. Like he's just really good at drawing, or he's really this way.
I literally wrote down everything's been passed down the Armstrong generation. Everything he's done has been passed down.
The art of drawing has been passed down.
And it's just whatever the story needs him to be at that moment.
He's like, yeah, I got it.
And I love that.
So it's interesting. So let's talk about Dr. Marco for a little bit. He's like running away from. He's trying to stay hidden from the government, right? He has an alias, and his whole point is to atone for this war that we've just established. Yeah. The whole purpose of his life is to atone from this conflict. Mm-hmm. Another character we now see has some sort of empathy for the actions that have been taking place.
Exactly.
With the Ishvalan War.
Well, exactly, because there's been he took part in a war that anyone from the outside who looks at this war, like us as like viewers, are going to recognize this wasn't a war, this was genocide. Yes, but they call it a war to justify it. Right. And Dr. Marco is one of the people who has recognized, no, this wasn't two sides fighting, this was a genocide.
I think that ties into a lot of the themes that I was talking about last time, where whatever it is to justify killing, whether that is science to justify killing, which is what the alchemists do and preach,
Yeah.
then it's the military to justify killing, especially as we're talking about with the genocide that's being taken place, and then like with Scar or with the Father Carnello, right?
Yeah.
In Lior was just using God to justify killing.
Yes, exactly. And this whole thing turns out to be a fascinating sort of a really nice microcosm for power and the sense of war in general, the Philosopher's Stone.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the next episode, I'm not moving on to the next episode, I just want to get this one point. You find out that the Philosopher's Stone can only be made with multiple human sacrifices.
Right.
But right now, Dr. Marco is using it to help people. And so you sort of have to now question, wait a minute, you are killing people to do what you ultimately consider good. And that is how
Is he currently killing people?
Yeah, but they
Oh
also...
no, he's not. But what I'm sorry, I'm not talking about Dr. Marco.
Right.
I'm not talking about Dr. Marco. I'm talking about
Yeah.
the Philosopher's Stone in general.
Because they don't even say where he actually got his from, unless he just made it.
No,
they don't say if he made it himself. They
Yeah.
say that. I mean, they show his research and that he knows how it's made, but they don't say he did it, got it from somebody, found it.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about the Philosopher's Stone as a symbol on its own is something you can use to help people, but can only be constructed by killing multiple people, which is exactly how wars are justified.
Right.
We're helping people by killing them.
I mean, I associate it sort of with like a nuke, like an arms race.
Oh yeah.
Like we have these. We are desperately trying to figure out the one source to be the most powerful.
Yeah.
Right. How do you do that? Well, we're going to keep our people safe by creating this, by using this to end whatever troubles we're having before. So basically, if you listen to Mustang's story, the Ishvalans were winning. They took up most of the eastern sector of Amestris.
Yeah.
Until the order was for these big boy alchemists to go and just murder everybody.
Yeah.
Right? And just start killing.
Yeah. Which is a story, I am inherently dubious of, and that I am dubious of? That's a weird way of phrasing that. That it is a little bit dubious, and I think it's supposed to be. Right? Yeah, they want you to kind of question, wait a minute, this doesn't sound like right at all.
Absolutely. It's not right. It's not right. It is not right.
Yeah.
The whole point.
But that's how so much so much war is, and it's how a lot of racism is, and a lot of nationalistic pride is. It's built on this other group of people are somehow more powerful than us, and at the same time are worse than us. That's how all of this bullshit manifests, is by just grouping this other group of people as somehow unstoppable, but also not as good as us.
Yeah, and they also mention specifically that the conflict starts with an Amestran military. They shoot a little kid.
Oh yeah.
That's how the conflict starts. Like there's already tensions, right? Just from probably just regular racism. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they go and they take it, and it is Amestris that makes the first shot, which I think is roughly referencing Germany in World War One.
How so?
Isn't that
what's his name?
With Franz
Duke Ferdinand.
Ferdinand?
Oh yeah, because the Black Hand ended up assassinating Archduke Franz Ferdinand.
Yeah.
Which basically took the entire world into World War One. It was going to go into World War One anyway, but that was what.
Right.
Hey, we got an excuse.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, there isn't there is a clear tie to Germany and Nazism in general, but there isn't. But it's left not specific enough.
Yeah.
For it to be its own world and for us to have our own opinions generating without looking at these, our main characters are essentially Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it allows us to empathize with that perspective.
Yeah.
Their perspective on the two-sided coin, right? And specifically, we're going to bring it reel it back in. We're talking about Dr. Marco, right?
Yeah.
He is feeling all of that. He is probably one of the smartest men in the show so far that we've seen. And he's the only one who truly understands exactly what's going on.
Yeah. And he is considered a deserter. Because he did the only thing that anyone with a moral compass could do in his situation, which is just leave.
Yep.
It's you can't stop it. but you can do your best to not contribute to it.
Yeah. And then we get the second most moral and smart character who understands what to do in the situation with Armstrong.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to call him in, is what Ed says?
Yeah.
He's like, I just saw a man trying to help. I just saw a
local doctor.
Local doctor trying to help people.
Yeah. I have written...
It's a big deal.
Oh, yeah, because Armstrong is going against what would be orders, essentially, or what would be proper protocol.
Yep.
Because he wants to do the right thing.
I don't just think he wants to do the right thing. I think he wants to set an example specifically for Ed.
Oh, interesting.
I think it comes from a fatherly or like a big brother-esque position of, Ed is with me. I need to set an example for him growing up because he is a good kid.
You know, I hadn't thought of that, but that's a really good point. He talks a lot about, well, like Kenneth, like you were saying, everything's been passed down to the Armstrong for generations. He doesn't have a family, at least not one that they've shown yet.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if he really cares about mentoring and being fatherly, partially perhaps out of the fact that he has no family, but was always taught that family matters.
Right.
I'm not surprised by that, but yeah, I hadn't thought of it. I have written in my notes, Ed, Al, and Armstrong all have moral deal breakers. Good for them. Because they have these really nice moral deal breakers where Ed and Al are looking for the Philosopher's Stone. They find it, but Edward says, like, we're not going to take it away from him because we're not going to deprive this village of this doctor. Like, we've been searching for a Philosopher's Stone, even an incomplete one, for a long time, but, you know, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
We'll make another one. It's enough to just know that it can be done.
Yeah, hope.
Yeah, right? Hope. We got hope out of it. And they have a huge moral deal breaker. It would actually break them morally if they were to take this thing that they've been searching for.
Right.
I'm a big fan of the fact that they have that.
Oh, I think that's important, right? Throughout the entirety of the show in general,
Mm-hmm.
I think that morality is exactly what they're trying to pinpoint. Especially, I mean, we're on episode 6 right now? Like,
Yeah, episode
especially
6.
so far, this is exactly like what they're trying to get across.
Mm-hmm. Then the back half of the episode happens. They do go home. They do see Granny and Winry.
I think that's the next episode.
Oh, no, it's not.
It's
the same episode.
Oh, shit.
And that brings me to my biggest problem with this episode. It is the weirdest paced episode ever. It is 2 incomplete episodes that should have just been 2 totally different
they're
ones.
still playing catch up. We're not quite turning.
And I love, as soon as they cut back to Dark Marco walking up the stairs, I'm like, he's dead. He's dying. He's about to die. What other reason do you have to cut back to him? We've already seen him, learned the lesson from him. We've left.
His job is done.
Right.
Cut back, he's dying. And then he opens that door. Yeah, he's about to die.
So I wrote down the research that he's a researcher on the Philosopher's Stone, and he constantly says it's the devil's research. We established why, right?
Yeah. Because they find out why.
Please trust me is his quote at the end before they leave for the first time, right? But then he runs up to him and gives Ed permission.
The cookbook.
Well, not yet.
But, he gives him.
He gives them the location of the cookbook, right?
Yeah.
And he says, "Why? Why do you think Marco gives Ed the cookbook? Because he in that conversation, do you think he learns that he understands Ed's moral code and is willing trusts Ed to come to that conclusion that it's wrong?"
Mm-hmm. I thought that he trusted Ed's moral code because they walked away.
Yeah.
He knew that if they were happy leaving without the stone, he knew he could trust them to not go to the lengths necessary to make one.
Right.
Because Marco couldn't have stopped Ed by himself. Never mind Ed and if Armstrong got him. So they could have just took it. They could have They could have just snatched it off the table and ran away.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And these are 3. This is one guy who's been in a war, and 2 state alchemists who are good at fighting. One of whom literally is a giant suit of armor. He's a doctor.
Al isn't a state alchemist.
No, but
Yeah, but still, he's a doctor.
Yeah.
They could have taken it and chose not to.
Well, I mean, he get his ass kicked, but Al isn't. And also, he's missing half of his body and can't.
I forgot he's in a bin.
Oh yeah, because he's in a bin. That's why they're going home. Yeah, I forgot about that. But yeah.
But I mean, Al could probably still kick his ass with that one arm and one leg.
On the other end of the episode, since you're right, it's a weirdly paced episode.
It's 2 episodes.
Super weird.
It's 2 incomplete episodes, both of which would have benefited from just being too.
Because I checked the time when I finished like the Philosopher's Stone part, and I was like, well, there's episode left.
Yeah, right. This is the first time they've been home in a long time.
Yeah.
I don't know if they specifically say how many years, but years.
Long enough that it's weird and that it's, it's been a long break for Winry and Granny as well.
Right. I mean, we don't even know if they've come back more than once for, like, repairs. Mm-hmm. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't. They don't, like...
I don't think they have because they mentioned about the automail being too small now.
Yeah, like...
because he's grown.
That would have been... It's the same automail that he got when he was... When he was 13, he was 12 when he left, when Mustang found him.
That sounds about right.
And that was his first automail.
So it's been 2-3 years.
Yeah.
Which, like I was mentioning about Mustang can't use a ladder or something... like I wrote down, the absolute marvel that is automail. You could just go to this house with a granny and a 14-year-old girl and get a perfect prosthetic arm, leg, for a human or a dog.
For a human or a dog that responds to their nerve endings. We, in current reality, are only just coming close to prosthetics.
All we got is those little bionicle arms that just close hand.
Yeah, and even those, they have trouble doing individual fingers.
Yeah, they just close the whole hand. It's just like you got two fingers. Really.
Yeah, and you got,
but those are an absolute marvel. They're amazing.
I don't I
I
have all my limbs, so I have no idea how that would work.
And they're out here just putting together perfect, I can point, make every gesture with my hand.
It almost sounds like he can feel with the arms.
Yeah, at the very least,
or like pressure, not necessarily like pain, but... Mm-hmm.
I think it's more for movement, because think about how many times he blocked swords and shit.
Yeah.
That hit his arm.
Well, right, I'm saying not pain
so it's not
specific, but like
it's
pressure to be
being
able to hold things, or like...
Yeah, he at least can tell where things are in his hand.
Yeah.
I have exactly one note for the back half of this episode, and that is that this is the only funny short joke that I've seen in this show so far.
Oh, right.
They're making them constantly. The only one that actually hit for me was when they arrived home, and Granny says, "Oh, hey, Ed, you've gotten smaller." Yes! Boom, you did it! You nailed it!
I love Granny's character, man.
I also wrote down...
She's really awesome. I mean, she and Winry. I wrote some stuff a little bit about Winry in terms of, like... Yeah, she's the stereotypical, like, childhood best friend girl character that's supposed to be, like, the romantic character, right?
The Sayori, if you will.
The Sayori. For all you Doki Doki Literature Club fans out there.
This is going to be a weird series in general as you watch my literacy with anime start to grow.
Right.
Because, like, right now it's Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z, and Doki Doki Literature Club.
That's fair. The point I was making about her is it does give her justice and gives her some time. We actually get to see her working as hard as... The similarities between her and Edward.
Oh,
like the passion for alchemy and the passion for automail.
I hadn't thought of it, you're right.
Like it's the same passion. Mm-hmm. And we really, in different ways, their story is sort of similar with her parents being lost in the war and, Ed's dad just leaving. And so they're both very similarly growing up. They're both very similarly headstrong. I just think it's an interesting... We get to see that.
Yeah.
In this episode.
Yeah, I noticed the similarities in their backstories with their parents leaving, but you're right. The similarities in their personalities really fit with the passion and the focus.
Yeah.
It's how Winry can work for 3
days
all-nighters.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as when they first got into Shao Tucker's library and they were like, oh, and I think Shao Tucker and Mustang are like, oh, they've forgotten we're here. Just reading the books.
Right. Referencing the other podcast, it's almost like the Deku mutter focus.
Yeah.
Like man, this is where our brain's at. This is where all of our attention's going, right?
Yeah.
And no other characters, even though Al also is just as into alchemy and stuff as his brother, it's that kind of like headstrong focus. I think that he looks up to his brother and Winry with. Mm-hmm. We find out in the next episode that Al's the better fighter.
Yeah.
And that. But the focus comes down from...
Also, is he the better fighter, or is he just a 10-foot tall piece of armor that's used?
Well, they spar, which means they're not actually fighting with strength, they're fighting with technique. So, Al beats him in technique every time. Yeah, that might be because he's way fucking taller, but...
Yeah, but he's a 10-foot double wide.
But in terms of strength, I don't think that's the case.
Also, but that doesn't mean that he's strong. I mean, we have no fucking.
Yeah,
that's true.
He's hollow suit armor. He could be like, he could be made out of like tin. We don't know what he's made out of.
Yeah, it could just be like aluminum foil.
I'm just saying, like,
over,
he has no muscles, so it's like he could be strong as hell. He could be weak as hell.
Yeah, it's
like,
true. We have no perspective.
There's no way to know what how he's moving.
We gotta get Matt Pat to do a game or a film theory about it.
No.
Well, because look, we see with
oh
Barry's chopping axe, we see him hit the armor and it doesn't even leave a dent.
Yeah.
It just sparks off.
Yeah.
So the material has to be strong.
armor.
Yeah.
But that force of the thing doesn't even.
And we get a sense that he clearly must have good reflexes because he is good at fighting.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
It's all about the technique for Al.
But this is a good segue for episode 7, Hidden Truths, because they literally forgot why it was a good segue. Shit. Alright, well, we have no segue. Episode 7.
First thing I have written down for episode 7 is I love simply drawn Al.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Like, when he's the big hunk of gray with a little face, I love it. Like, because they do it so much in this episode, I love this shit.
I wrote,
love it too.
I wrote, we start the scavenger hunt with a bunch of exclamation points. This was at like 2 a.m. in the morning when I wrote that note. So whatever that means to you, I feel like this is where I really felt the story starts.
Mm-hmm.
This is where Fullmetal Alchemist starts.
Yeah.
In my brain.
I try to summarize the episode after I've watched it. That way I can come back here in the podcast. My summary for this episode is they basically go on a combination of Soylent Green, To Serve Man, and National Treasure.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, To Serve Man!
You're right.
And National Treasure.
Holy shit.
Which I think might be the 3 possible greatest combination, like the best combination of 3 you could have.
You're talking about the Twilight Zone, right?
Yeah. The only reason I thought of To Serve Man is because it was a cookbook. That was the beginning and end of that relationship.
Me and my dad loved that. Twilight Zone, and specifically that episode.
Yeah.
I love that
It's
episode.
a cookbook. It's gone. It's too late. It's too late, bro.
1,000 easy recipes, but they're encrypted. And then I wrote, can we talk about, what's her name?
Cheska.
Macheska?
Cheska.
Just Cheska?
Yeah.
What a great character that they just introduced for no reason, but she's so great.
When they find her, she's like me, working at Barnes & Noble in the during the holiday season, just covered in books. And just,
like, sorry.
She's
help, please!
But they left her there while she was still working after they fired her.
Yeah. That is weird.
They forgot about her.
It's like they threw the books on her when they're like, "Nah, you're fired." But
you're fired.
You can stay and read some more if you want. I guess.
Also, like when she does the cookbook thing for them, and they're reading the cookbook, and like he starts pointing things out in the cookbook to Al, and they don't show you on it. It literally looks like they're bullshitting. It literally looks like if me and King were over here, like, yeah, you see this part here?
Oh, yeah.
This part makes sense here.
Oh,
This part?
yeah.
Like, it looks like they're literally bullshitting. Like, it could just be a blank piece of paper. And the soldiers don't know. Like, it looks like they're just like, yeah. Oh, this is very interesting.
Oh, man, this is great. Yeah, we get Lieutenant Ross and Sergeant Brosh.
I love
great
Ross and Brosh.
Ross and Brosh, yeah.
Because they show up, it's Ross and Brosh?
It's Lieutenant Ross and Sergeant Brosh.
I thought it was Rosh and Brosh, and I was like, yes, these weird rhyming pair, I love it.
They're close. They're
Ross and Brosh.
Yeah. I don't know why it's Brosh. I don't know. It's funny. They're fun. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Great. She has a photographic memory, and nobody cares to notice about that. But they use that very offhand with Colonel Hughes coming in for like a second, and then we actually get to see like how big of a deal this military society is from the perspective of a lieutenant and a sergeant who see Colonel Hughes coming in and talking to Ed.
Yeah.
And they're
they're just buddies?
They're like, that's fucking crazy.
That's weird. Like, who are these, man? Which I'm like, first, like, they're state alchemists, so you know that they have, one of them state alchemists.
Again.
But you know that they have, like, they're not just regular soldiers, but it's still, like, this super strong 15-year-old kid comes out of nowhere, and he's just like...
He's 15 years old.
He's cool with Mustang. I don't know if they've seen that or not yet, but he's cool with Armstrong.
I don't think they
cool
even know
Hughes.
who Mustang is. That's the crazy part. It's like they're from They're from Central.
I think if they work for Hughes, I mean, they might know who
Of
he
Mustang,
is,
yeah,
but
yeah,
they
yeah.
might have never met him, but they think they know.
They clearly
that
don't
there
know,
is
like...
a Colonel Mustang.
They don't know, like, Mustang's team. They wouldn't know people
Yeah,
like
they don't-
Hawkeye
yeah.
knows people, because Hawkeye and Mustang go everywhere together,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
I just think it's an interesting sighting of, like, the stakes of how the military is structured for these characters.
Yeah.
It is a big deal. It's a big deal when Hughes comes in. My note for that one scene with Hughes coming in and hiring Cheska is I love Hughes, like, so much. Like, I love Hughes. Trying to decide if I want an Alex Armstrong or a Colonel Hughes body pillow. So there's that.
There's a different Armstrong body pillow I'd like, but
That'll
be later in the series.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, of him in a specific pose or as a specific...
We'll talk about
that when we get there.
But
Spoiler,
I want an Alex Armstrong pillow. He's just so big and cuddly.
Well, the main difference between a Hughes body pillow and an Armstrong body pillow is it depends if you want to be Big Spoon or Little Spoon.
Sometimes I want to be both.
Well, then I think you should get yourself one of each. Sandwich yourself between those boys.
The likelihood of me doing that is larger than you think.
Ooh, I love the visual of Ed grabbing at the ceiling fan, where he says every time we come close, it just slips through our fingers.
Yeah, that's cool.
As he grabs the ceiling fan, because he can't reach it, and you watch the
Right.
ceiling fan go
Keep
and
going.
leave his fist. This show is full of a lot of really good visuals.
Yeah.
Like that, like the rain in the episode 5.
Oh, and the creation of the drama that I don't really like of them getting interrupted right before Ed is going to tell him something very important.
Oh, yeah.
And then it leads into the episode and it creates this, like,
Oh, yeah.
very
what is the line
short-lived
that he
major
says?
drama.
That specific scene. He's like,
Oh, yeah.
he's like, Al, I need to tell you
here's
something that's
that I
on
haven't
my
been,
mind.
I haven't been able
Or,
to
like,
say to you
whatever.
before, and then they get interrupted.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the next episode, it creates this, like, drama.
This
Yeah.
rift of doubt in
Yeah.
Alphonse.
Well, because in the next episode, the 5th laboratory, that's the
favorite
one...
place on the planet.
Because they infiltrate the 5th laboratory, which has been shut down because they suspect that was where Marco's research would be, right?
Yeah,
I'm back.
it is one of the laboratories that his research was being worked on that they found out from the notes.
Oh, yes, because it's right next to the
No.
prison.
I don't think it was in the notes, but then when he saw it was next to a prison.
Oh
he
no,
was-
you're right. It's
Yeah,
next to
yeah.
a prison.
And,
Next to a
and then he saw it was next to a prison.
Because
he was
they
like,
from the notes
that's-
figured out that he
has to use people.
that he has to use people. So they found out that this laboratory was next to prison area.
So they're not going there looking for anything specific, right? They're just going to
They're just-
take
it's
their
an-
stuff.
We'll
It's
find
an unused-
something out.
It's an
Yeah.
unused military
Military
building,
base.
and when they get there, they see
There's-
that it's
there's
being
a
guarded.
Yeah.
Right off the
And
bat,
it's
they're
next to a prison, which is an easy way to execute criminals. So they're like, we'll find out something.
So this is effectively just a recon mission
Right.
that they're not allowed to go on, but they go
Yeah.
on anyway.
Yeah,
But like I wrote for the episode 7, if you've watched the show before, as soon as you see the silhouettes of the two armors,
oh yeah,
it's just like love. Like if you want, like for Slicer and Barry the Chopper,
right.
when you just see their silhouettes in episode 7, if you watched the show before, you're like,
Fullmetal Alchemist.
yeah.
Fullmetal Alchemist. If you're watching it without commercials.
Fullmetal Alchemist. Fullmetal Alchemist.
Oh man.
But yeah, just seeing their silhouettes is like, oh, good times. Good times.
But when they are doing the infiltration, they get interrupted by the people who are guarding it, and one of them starts building doubt up in Alphonse.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, because he's questions, how do you know you're not just a puppet that was created by Ed and not actually his...
And then he
This
gives
specific character I
And
have
then he
written
gives-
down in my notes as Barry the goddamn chopper in all caps with a heart emoji right next to it.
Which I still don't like that they go out of their way to show that he's a butcher and he's not Barry the Butcher. Like they go out of their way to show
Barry the
he's a
chopper. He's Barry the chopper.
What?
He's Barry the chopper.
But then of course
It's just like weirdly
Why is a
like,
Brooklyn accent? Hey, I'm Barry
Hey,
the Chopper.
hey guy, I'm chopping
it's just
over
the
here.
name. I'm chopping.
Guy, watch it, I'm chopping over here.
Can we talk about that scene where the guard comes up and he just fucking throws his
Yeah,
knife?
hey guy, I'm
You're
chopping
like,
over here.
Whoa!
Yeah.
He throws it so fast. So those armor pieces must be strong.
It just destroys
They must
the
be
guy's
physically strong because I think about that. Like you think it's so fast.
Yeah. Well, and I imagine there's a reason they chose these 3 specific criminals to bind to the armor.
3? Everybody who hasn't watched along with us yet?
Wait, why would they not? Why would they be listening to this if they were watching
Yeah,
along?
they already mentioned. Wait, yeah.
All right, so there's 2 guards, and during the fight, Ed kicks off one of their helmets to reveal that the soul binding seal is in the helmet, so clearly the body is dead, but oh no, wait, the body has a different soul inside.
He reveals it at first to show, like, this is where you're going, because that's how he deals with people.
No, they do both. Because that happens to Slicer, but Barry the Chopper, his head gets knocked off.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah.
Barry the Chopper,
Barry's head gets knocked off.
No,
but Ed also knocks off.
Yeah, and by knocking off his head, since that's where the circle is on his head and not his body, so his head would make his body die. But oh no, wait, his body's not dead because there are 2 souls.
Ed got played.
So there's 3 convicts, and I think there's a reason that they would choose these 3 convicts, and it's probably because they, for one reason or another, trusted them to be good guards. Maybe it's because they're good at fighting. Maybe it's because, like Barry the Chopper, he's just so fucking crazy and
they
ruthless.
just gave him an excuse. Hey, as long as you stay right here, anybody that comes in here, you do whatever you want to. Mm-hmm. You just got to stay in here. And he must have
gives
been
him an outlet to kill.
And he must have been like, yeah, I'm down. Yeah, that sounds better than being dead.
Or they're bond on, like, they're forced because of the seals. We don't really know a lot about the seals.
Well, yeah,
But with what Barry was saying was, like, you could be forged, like, you could be above it, like,
but what I was getting at was that the state could choose any convict, and they chose these 3.
Specific, yeah.
Which, because then he uses the excuse, like, when Al asked him, well, how do you know you're not, you're not being controlled, and he basically just says, I think, therefore I am.
Yeah, I always thought that was so weird because Barry's reasoning made no more sense.
Yeah, it was crazy.
It was just, I think, therefore I am. It was just a play on that.
Exactly.
I honestly think this whole doubt that has Barry right off the bat, once he establishes that they're both suits of armor, knows that it's a child. He starts calling him little boy without knowing who it is.
And it's
obviously he's got like a little kid's voice, but like. Barry knows now
it's just an experienced person playing games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's just saying shit. He's just a crazy guy saying shit, and he knows he's fucking with this little kid.
Yeah.
Right? And it's really fucking with Al.
Yeah.
You know?
Because he has this very short-lived existential crisis.
I think the writing does so well at telling us that these are kids.
Yeah.
And I've said that time and time again this episode because I think these, especially in these last couple of episodes, we're really feeling it.
Yeah. Well, because that's the kind of thing that would sort of rock your mind as a child or a young teenager.
Yeah.
It's sort of interesting. I've thought about this a lot, actually. Mostly I thought about it after the first time I watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Because there's a character on that show who is introduced and is also given a shit ton of fake memories.
Right. So
that she has effectively lived a whole life that she never lived.
Right.
And I think, well, not anymore, but at the time when I was watching it, I thought about it a lot. And I've come to the conclusion that I wouldn't mind. If today if like God came down and said, hey Jacob, BT dubs, you weren't real until now, and everything that happened up till now was fake and was a memory implanted in you, I'd probably just be like, oh, cool. It's exactly the same as I'm already experiencing the world. Well, it's no different from what I'm currently doing.
They play with this concept really well in Fallout 4 with a character called Valentine. And I'm not crazy spoilers for anybody who hasn't played Fallout 4.
Spoiler!
It's been a freaking while. This character is in Fallout 4 there's these things called what are they called? I can't remember. They're robots.
Yeah.
They're robots, but they think like people, and they're developed by this mysterious corporation.
So they're like replicants.
Yes, they're replicants. They are replicants, but they're called something else.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have Valentine, who's this detective, and he's a replicant based off of a real.
So he's Deckard.
Based off of a real detective.
So Fallout 4.
And all of his memories are from this, real detective. But he doesn't know that the real detective was human.
Oh, interesting.
Fallout 2049.
He doesn't know that until he finds out that the real detective is dead and that this entire, he's trying to, save somebody. I don't remember.
Yeah.
He's trying to avenge, the death of his daughter or something like that, I think.
Yeah.
And so he's trying to kill this criminal who's been dead for a long time because that happened, before the turn of, century we're in Fallout 4. And then he's like... So when you figure that out, he's all, settled, And he's like, this whole time I felt like I was this person. Mm-hmm. And I still am part of me.
Yeah.
But I am me. And I'm okay with the part of me that knows now that I was him. Mm-hmm. And that I'm not necessarily him because I'm me.
Oh, cool.
And so it's a really satisfying story and like arc for this character. Mm. And I think it deals with that concept of like, we're talking about Alphonse right now, not knowing. Like, it wouldn't, I think about that now, like you were saying, I don't think that would bother me because I'm still doing good. I still have a good relationship with my brother. It's not like they're, I mean, it sucks that he can't eat quiche, but like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But yeah, I that's what I've come to too, is I don't think it would bother me.
Also,
because literally, what does it change? What does it change about the way you've perceived about your current reality?
They're still trying to get like a body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're still trying to get. That's true. They're still
you're
trying to
gonna
get a body
become a
for
real
him.
boy, Pinocchio. Like it's still gonna happen.
Well, Kenneth, what do you think? Like, if someone told you right now,
the only thing that would
fake.
matter is like Barry says about that. Oh, the other people on the outside are in on it. Like when he mentions Winry and Grandy, he's like, "Oh, they're just in on it."
Keeping a big secret from somebody.
That would be the difference maker. Is like, oh, if all the people I know in my life are just part of this secret thing, then that makes me feel bad.
Yeah, actually, I hadn't thought about
But
that.
if-
You're right.
but
That would bother me.
Yeah.
That's the part that would bother me.
If
Yeah.
all the friends you ever had were just people that were paid to be friends with you, people that were paid to hire you for that job, people that were paid
that
to
would fuck with my brain.
Yeah.
people that were paid to be your parents.
Or even if they weren't paid, even if they were doing it just because they thought it was right or because it was nice for me, I would still be angry.
If they were doing
because
it outside of any reason that was just, hey, I just met this guy and we became friends.
Yeah,
It'd be
because
kind of, yeah.
Exactly. Because if it turns out that people that I love and care about have been keeping an integral secret from me for this long, that would make me angry.
And they only care about you because of some condition.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what would make me feel bad.
Yeah.
But besides that, it's like, yeah, I'm just living in this body with the experiences of everything that's happened. So I'm in the same spot.
He's lived as the suit for like 3 years, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Like I'm in the same spot as I would have been if I never found this out. Mm-hmm. But it's the other people that would affect me.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but damn,
That
you're
would
right.
bother me, yeah.
It would bother me just... I don't like the idea of people keeping secrets from me about me.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can keep secrets from me, I don't care. But if you're keeping secrets from me that are about
me, like you know, like secret
About me being a fake
stuff,
human?
Like,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, that's hey.
Like, I wouldn't even mind being a
could say-
fake human. I just mind that you didn't tell me.
One could say homunculus.
Oh, which actually I looked up and checked what its name, what's theirs name is androgynous. What's it called? I forget which symbol.
Oh, envy.
Yeah.
What?
It's androgynous. There's no he or she for it.
Oh,
Wait,
that
what
makes
are we-
sense.
Because in the
The dog?
No,
No, the character,
Envy, the
Envy.
character.
And I was like, oh, it's a he, and then so
It's
it's
a she.
androgynous.
Yeah, it's
That's
androgynous.
amazing.
Oh,
Because
yes.
on like the whateverpedia page, the specific pedia for, like, you know, they have like Wikipedia,
Right.
Yeah.
whatever the pun is for Fullmetal Alchemistpedia, it continuously refers to it as either the name Envy or them, they, their.
There.
Oh, okay.
So it's
Then yes, the proper the proper pronoun for if you don't know someone's preferred pronouns is they. Because right now, Envy just revealed themselves in like this grouping of episodes, and not much has come up about what they have.
I mean, because you have the
Actually,
voice and
if
the
we're-
structure
If
and
we're
like the
talking,
shirt and all that.
if we're talking about the sins, I would like to actually go back and address some stuff in the other episodes because they were in all the episodes that we've talked about so far.
that
yeah,
less
sure.
fine ass is just standing in the middle of the crowd of all these regular people and doesn't get noticed.
The very, very first episode we talked about on the list, the Reign of Starros episode, before the Scar stuff happens, before we address Ed now, other than that, it's right after.
Yeah.
We get a scene with Father Cornello, and he starts a civil war in Lior.
Yeah.
This civil war is important,
Yeah.
right?
A civil fight. Like
yeah,
a civil
it's just a
fist
civil fight right in the center.
streets.
Right, yeah, right at the beginning. And then we find out that it's not Father Cornello doing that. That it's Envy's causing this civil
Well, because they already said that Envy was taking his place.
Right, for now.
Right after that episode.
and instilling the ideals of the sun god Leto, right? And then we have Gluttony and Lust for the first time, we really get to see a scene with them where Gluttony gets to eat somebody.
Yeah.
Right, he's Gluttony. Like, he just actually eats somebody.
Yeah.
Which another part of the reason
Right.
I researched the he-she is because I thought, well, if they're not actually human, are any of them he's and she's? The homunculus?
That's a good question.
Well,
obviously Lust is
They're
physically
all-
a woman, but is it actually, like...
I don't know.
I mean, it's kind of a question that doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Or
My general rule with pronouns in general is if you just go with whatever the person wants.
Yeah.
So if Lust does identify as a she, then
Then she's a
no
she.
matter if she's
Agreed.
human or not.
Yeah,
it's
agree.
she.
Agree.
Well, I get that. Well, I get the... Just as we're talking about them as, like, physically different...
Yeah, like, what are
different,
they?
whatever.
Like,
Yeah.
like actual in terms of like
whatever
actual,
they
like,
are.
Yeah, but I'd say the same goes for, say, Transformers.
Right.
Optimus Prime uses he, him pronouns, even though he's a robot.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
I think we're just actually asking on like the anatomy of these creatures. Like we don't really know. Like they look and appear human.
I don't know in general because
maybe my question
well,
is
all I
just,
know they are human. Like
Right.
they haven't said much.
Well, I
Maybe
guess
my
that's fair.
question
We
is
live in
just-
magic world, right?
Yeah.
maybe my question is just, can I have sex with Lust or not? Maybe that's just the answer that I want.
That's the question.
Yeah.
Probably.
I
Her
don't
name's
know.
Lust.
Well,
I can
I guess-
imagine that's
I
her
guess-
whole thing.
Maybe she can't, and that's why she's Lust and not like the act of sex.
I mean, I guess
brain just blew up.
I guess either way I could have sex with Lust. It's just that there's one way. I mean,
there's one thing.
yeah.
to be barred from.
I mean,
that I
you
really
you
wanna
could do
go.
it the other way.
Yeah, I really want to address the character dynamic between Lust and Gluttony
Yeah.
because it's developed in that first episode. We don't really see it again for a little bit.
It's very pet-like.
It's different than the way Lust is with Envy.
And
Yeah.
They sound like they have an agenda. Lust, like you said, it's
Gluttony's
pet-like.
like
It's almost
along for the ride.
almost like a little kid. It's almost like a. But specifically with Lust, Gluttony doesn't really address or talk to anybody else but Lust.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's really just, as long as I get to eat people,
For sure.
like, we'll do it.
But they
we'll
have,
do whatever y'all want.
but he clearly has a relationship. He asks her for permission.
Yeah.
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 That's true.
Because he's still following the plan.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
he knows he may not be smart enough to know what the plan is, but he knows that there is a plan, and he knows that there's things that
Can
he
I
can
eat
and
somebody
can't do.
now? Yes,
Yeah.
you can. Now you're allowed to.
And he always talks through Lust.
Right.
Yeah.
Which
It's
I
like-
mean, they're paired by whoever sent them out. Like this, like
But
it's like
Envy
Gluttony
doesn't
needs a
feel
handler.
Envy doesn't feel like they're a part of that. Is my point that I'm making, and I don't know if you guys feel that way. I'm just saying
Envy's
to
not a
me,
part of what?
Envy doesn't feel like they're a part of that like relationship. Like those two characters clearly have a real relationship.
that's what I'm saying is that
isn't the agenda that whatever the agenda is.
But I feel like whoever sent them out
Knew
is
that?
like Gluttony needs a handler.
Okay.
And so they've
yeah.
been together doing things, so it's
So they
just
notice
a
that
process
Gluttony
of
was-
coming together.
Okay.
And it's just
Okay. I buy
It's
that.
sort of like I need Lust to go somewhere, which means we kind of have to send Gluttony because we're not looking after it.
Yeah, we can't-
Or backwards, I need Lust to eat something, so we need to send Lust with him to make sure it
Gluttony.
happens correctly.
You-
Oh,
Gluttony
yeah.
to eat something.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's what I meant. I meant Gluttony to eat.
But yeah, we're like, well,
Sorry, Freudian slip.
we're just sending Gluttony out. So we need somebody watching him because he's just gonna start eating people.
Yeah.
And he might eat Ed.
Oh, yeah, we don't
and then
know.
ruin the whole damn plan.
Right, and they talk about Ed.
How they keep him alive.
Yeah,
On
that's
purpose.
mentioned in episode 8,
Yeah.
how they don't want him dead because I think Envy mentioned something about him being a sacrifice.
Yeah,
So they must want to kill him.
They
at
mentioned
some
it
other
actually in
point.
a few episodes that
Oh.
they mentioned it a couple times. It's pretty much hit across a hammer. Envy's like, it's a sacrifice.
Yeah.
Fullmetal Brass, a sacrifice.
Oh.
Like Envy keeps saying it over
And
and over.
that's
I'm
when
not
you
gonna lie, I probably wasn't paying too much attention to those because
Yeah.
my brain kind of already writes off stuff that's just set up that isn't paid off in that episode.
Right.
My brain is generally like, didn't matter for this episode. It's just set up.
Absolutely.
I'll get there when
well,
we get
that's
there.
the kind of stuff that I'm like, I write down because I'm like, because I'm watching this the second time.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's what I mean about like the car showing up out of nowhere. It's just something that you notice when you're looking more in depth into the episode because you've already seen it before.
Fair, but
So you need to-
I'm trying to point out the stuff that does have some sort of meaning sometime later, maybe.
Well, it's because you're watching
and
the second time.
speculate about it.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay attention to the basic things that are going on as much. You can look.
Like the main.
You
plot
can
points
stop
of the
and think
episodes.
about. Oh yeah, that means
That's
something
fair.
that I know is going to happen. Or
Well, they're also just the magic beings, right? I think they're very interesting characters.
Yeah, 'cause at this point
because they have character.
You have
right?
no clue what
they
they
have
are
relationships.
at this point.
They're straight up monsters in comparison to anything else that we've seen so far.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know if they're monsters, they're augmented humans.
Well, this is
you don't know what they are.
This is established, right? Right. The episode 7, I believe, is the episode, or maybe it's the end of episode 8. No, because it's before the 5th laboratory. It's episode 7. Because it's after they come back. Scar is hiding out underground.
Oh yeah.
And then Gluttony is sent to attack him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Gluttony doesn't succeed and Scar escapes, but Scar straight up what he thinks would, I mean, obviously it happened once with Ed when he zaps Ed's arm and he's like, oh, automail arm. But this thing
But he actually blows something
looks
up.
like straight up like tangible flesh.
Yeah.
Grabs Gluttony by the face and Gluttony's not dead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Imagine being Scar who's been killing people,
like, okay.
seeing something that truly is a monster.
The only time it didn't work when I did this is when somebody had a metal arm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which means
So,
that for some reason.
What is going on with this dude?
Yeah, and then he just bolts. He just runs.
He's like, yeah, and she's got a friend, and he's got a hot friend back there. I'm not ready for this.
I'm out.
Yeah, I'm not ready for this.
we haven't seen anything that happens at the end of the Dr. Marco episode. Lust shows up and says, "Hey, Marco."
Yeah.
So Lust knows who Marco is, and assumedly, there's a relationship there.
Yeah.
So what is that? Like, what could that be? Like, do they know about? They clearly know about the Philosopher's Stone somewhat because they were directly attached to Cornello.
Yeah.
Right, and the fake one that Cornello was using. I don't know. Like, I don't know where to go.
That would
with
make
that,
sense because
but-
they never explained where Cornello's incomplete Philosopher's Stone came from. It would be not unreasonable to suggest that there was some connection with Dr. Marco's research.
Right. And and the sheer just brutality of these characters, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we were just establishing in the last episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
These ideas, like what makes us. What's the line? He says, for the first time, number 48. He says, for the first time.
Been treated like a person.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm glad you went this because I have this in my notes and I wanted to get.
Do you
there.
have the quote?
Yeah. Number 48. No, I don't have the exact quote. Sorry, I didn't put the exact quote.
Yeah, he mentions how Ed treats him like a
He says, all our lives we've been treated like monsters, and for the first time when we're not, the way we look, basically, we're sacks of armor. We're like...
Yeah,
we're actual monsters,
and because
we're
of
being
that,
treated like humans.
Does he say his actual name?
No.
I don't think.
Yeah.
They only refer
that's
to
the
themselves as Slicer and, like, the brothers.
Yeah, because the thing is, like, you have Barry the Chopper, and it's like he has a name, he has a moniker.
But that's his whole thing, right? Is
Yeah,
knowing that.
but then the other two are just
Slicer brothers,
which is like
we don't know how old these characters are. They could be ages old.
Yeah.
We have no idea what era Barry the Chopper's
like,
from because Alphonse is like, yeah, he writes about
I don't
us
even
being
know who
like,
you are.
I'm
Yeah.
from a small town, but it could be that he was a killer that's not even relevant from
yeah.
like 40 years, 80 years. Like, we don't know.
That's a really good point.
Because,
It could
like,
be literally
especially-
anyone.
Al hasn't aged. Al is still the same 12-year-old boy in the suit, even though he'd be like what? Or he'd be
like
12 now,
14
but
now.
now he's like
now,
8.
he
Yeah.
was like 8.
Yeah.
But because like they go out of their way when they do the episode cut in and cut out. When you cut out, I think when you cut out, it's Slicer.
It just says Slicer, and it
And then,
hasn't
but when you
revealed
cut
the two
in,
brothers
it's
yet.
Barry the Chopper.
Right.
So it's like Slicer. That's obviously like the name that they gave him.
Yeah. Slicer doesn't get his own name.
Yeah, he
He's
wasn't born as Slicer.
Yeah.
They come out the womb. Hell, he's Slicer.
But as far as the government is concerned, he's just a murderer.
I hope it's
Yeah.
Slicer and Dicer.
Oh.
But yeah, what I like about that is that he feels treated like a human being, and as a result, he gives Edward information.
Actively, well, almost, right, before
Well,
we talk
yeah,
about
Well, yes, but he
it's a big deal.
He's
going
it's a
to.
big
The
deal.
empathy happens. They're empathizing with otherwise what we would consider monsters or murderers. The empathy still connects.
Yes, and that empathy is what gets it gets Ed the information he was looking for, not attacking him, but treating him like a human being.
Right.
I think that is beautiful.
I think it's the biggest theme of the show
Yeah.
so far that we've established, right?
Is treating people like people and not like obstacles.
Oh, I even wrote down for for Bury the Chopper and I think therefore I am thing is that Ed false existential crisis.
As far as I know, it isn't false though. You guys are saying it's short, so I assume it gets wrapped up pretty quick. But at the end of this episode, he's still having it.
At the end of it, he's having it, but
I assume it gets wrapped up pretty quick in the next episode or two, based on how you guys are
and
talking.
even like the first time I watched it, I felt like okay, this can't be something that lasts like 40 episodes.
Right.
That he feels this huge mistrust with his brother and the person that he spends like 24/7 with. We can't go like 40 episodes with them having this huge mistrust between each other. Like it's just not gonna work.
I don't know. Have you ever watched Supernatural? That's literally the plot of their show for like 12 seasons.
I've never watched Supernatural.
Sam.
It's on the CW, right?
Dean. Sam.
Dean.
Sam.
Sam, if you walk out that door, you are never coming back.
And then he does. But then he comes back.
Yeah.
Kick ass.
Thank you guys, man. Yeah.
Hey, I'll see you guys next week. And maybe we'll also be talking about my favorite anime.
Maybe. Who knows? Who knows what anime we'll be talking about next week? Is it the one I just said?
Kane's favorite anime is Hunter x Hunter.
It's not. Yet.
Yeah. He hasn't watched it yet, so it's in zero place right now.
Just cut the recording.
Don't let Jacob tell you what to do, Severn. You can keep this rolling if you want.
Something I forgot to mention is when Ross and Brosh say that when they get found out, they're like, Major Armstrong is going to take his shirt off and yell at us again.
I wrote that down too.
I wrote that down too, and we all forgot to bring it up.
No, I'm still recording right now. Severn,
Cut that in.
Put that in.
That they are like deathly afraid.
Put this in.
But yeah, they're like deathly afraid. Major Armstrong's going to take his shirt off and yell at us again. Like, how often does he do this?
Pretty often, probably. I mean,
takes his shirt off.
It's happened at least 8 times, right?
I also forget what episode it is where he takes his shirt off and he does the bit, and then when they cut back to him, he has the coat back on, but it's open. Like he hasn't put it. Like he just threw it back on. He didn't put it all the way back on. He just threw it back on.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next week with My Hero Academia. Also, episodes 5 through 8 of that show. Thank you so much.